Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. I am not late. I am always on time. I was just checking my YouTubes. That's what I was doing. The internet. No, seriously, everybody, thank you for joining us for this live. Matt, my ex, we really had a lot of fun the last time we did this back in December. So we figured we'd do it again and, keep doing it for as long as we keep it fun. So with me, I've got I did it that time. To my right here is the Omnibus Collector, Ryley.
What's up?
And down below is my man all the way from New Zealand, Peter. Crushing Crisis.
Greetings, everybody.
Hope you gentlemen are doing fine this evening, or I'm sorry, is it morning? What's up?
Have a beautiful summer afternoon.
Summer? Oh my gosh, it's snowing out here. That's awesome. Yeah. I love
That's okay. Wait until I tell you how much I paid for the New Mutants Omnibus, then you won't mind.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about prices here in a little bit. So, if you are not familiar with this segment, this is the segment where the three of us get together and kind of talk about how we would map an omnibus that has not been announced yet. So this is not an announcement of Wolverine Omnibus Volume 2. Wolverine Omnibus Volume 3. Wolverine Omnibus Volume 2 is coming out. That one is coming out sometime, I think it's June, right? Or July. One of those days. But it is coming out this year. So we don't know if they're doing a Volume 3. I'm not announcing that. I'm not wearing a suit. So obviously it's not an announcement. So we're just talking about how we would map it and what reading order, what books need to be in there. We had a lot of fun, a lot of disagreements, a lot of agreements last time. So I hope we have that again. So I hope everybody's doing well. And please chime in, everybody. And I'll keep tabs of what we're adding and what we're going to leave out by creating a new brand. So Wolverine Omnibus Volume 3. Very excited. Oh, and before I get started, I was sent something from an anonymous source at Diamond Comics. Ryley, are we allowed to reveal who that source is?
All right, well, what?
You don't pay attention to my intro?
Oh.
I said, are we allowed to reveal who one of the Diamond sources was?
Sure.
Okay. Thanks, Ryley.
You go for it.
So, as you all know, I asked David. I also asked Peter. I asked David Gabriel if there was any possible way to add Havoc Wolverine Meltdown 4-issue miniseries into Wolverine Omnibus Volume 2, and it's in there. It's not only in there, but there's no change to price, which is my favorite thing about this note down there at the bottom. So, and also on top of that, we made it from teen to mature. So all those little teenies can't buy this book. Thanks, Wolverine.
That's going to have an impact on future omnibuses too, though. So that's a good thing. It's a good
precedent
for that.
I'm so glad they did it. So they are adding Wolverine Havoc or Havoc Wolverine Meltdown. Now you can find out what all the fuss is about and see why it's rated mature. You're going to be so disappointed when it's just Wolverine taking a leak. But there you go. Now the pages have been added. They went from 1,024 pages all the way to 1,248 at no additional cost. So if you've got it pre-ordered or whatever, awesome. So that's good news.
So here's them with the inside information. Here's me getting ready for the show in my spreadsheet on the listing going, it wasn't 1,200 pages before, like trying to do the math. And then 8 minutes ago, Riley's like, by the way, Peter.
I found out I was the one that told Omar earlier. I found out because I was like, hey, I better get the I want to get the listing. I'm going to write it down so I have that to work off of so I don't have to worry about saying like, hey, Omar, can you throw it up there for me to see? And when I looked, I saw the big red box on there and I was like, oh, snap. Looks like, and I just sent a message over to Omar and said, hey, I didn't realize that you and David got them to add that on there. And Omar's like,
we were literally talking about that today because we were like, hey, did we ever get confirmation? And he was like, I don't know. I can't remember. And I'm like, I can't remember if you emailed me either. And I was like, dang it. And he's like, who's asking? I'm like, I'm asking you. So he was like, well, let me go and find out. Of course, it's Friday night, so there you go. Confirmation. That's all we needed. So
you can let David know that I confirmed it for him.
You confirmed it for him.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Hey, David, my buddy Ryley, he had the inside on that. Don't worry about it.
Peter, love the masterworks from Tyler.
Yeah.
So let's get started. Let's pull this back up and talk about where we are ending Wolverine Omnibus Volume 2. So Wolverine Omnibus 2 collects 11 through 30. Meltdown, hell yes. The Scorpio Connection, Bloodlust, and material from Marvel Comics Presents 38 through 71. Now that may seem like a lot, but each one of those issues is 8 pages. So that's where we are. We are with Wolverine 30. So of course, Wolverine 31 is the obvious place to start. Now, in my head, I have mapped this thing many years ago. Curious to see what you guys would add, because in my head, we also live in a world where a 2,000-page omnibus can exist. But I'm going to have to cut some stuff out. And I realize that. So I'm curious as to how you guys would map this. So I guess we're kicking it off with Wolverine 31. Then we can talk about, and I'll write this stuff down so people can see what we said. And please, anybody in the chat, join along, add things. Yeah, so let's kick it off with Wolverine 31. And then later on we can talk about where we would put these issues. Because that's where the most fun, I think, is. So, gentlemen, who wants to start? Wolverine 31, and then where will we take it from there? How far will we take it? Like, because I already know in my head.
I can be real honest real quick. Like, I'm gonna be halfway useless here because I realize
that's not how you start this.
I want to get my thing so that I look. Then Peter looks a lot better coming in after me. It's been years.
I'm being sandbagged by Ryley right now. He's going to underpromise and overdeliver, and then it's going to be my turn.
It's been so many years since I've read this material, and I did not really realize that before I started going back. And I was like, "All right, let me get this map put." And I was like, "Wait, what? What is this? What happened here? What's that?" And I'm going to be real honest. This one is a head scratcher for me.
Okay.
Because the first, these are not very easily predictable omnis because of the way that the first one started the set. Because it wasn't just a bunch of chronological material that was, it's not just collecting the publication order of this stuff. We do get the beginning of things. We get, his first appearance. We get the first miniseries and the issues of X-Men that follow it. And then we get the first 10 issues of the ongoing series. We get the Kitty Pryde miniseries and a bunch of other stuff that takes place, earlier in his life. And then we also get Marvel Comics Presents with the Barry Windsor Smith stuff that obviously is a lot earlier in his life as far as the character's chronology goes, but it takes place right after the material that's collected in Volume 2, as far as the omnibus goes. So it's something that's a little bit different than predicting, like last time when we were predicting the prospective Volume 5 of Uncanny X-Men. So with that, Volume 2 set up to be a lot more linear than Volume 1 was in what it collected. And Volume 2 has 11 through 30, like Omar said. And the Havoc and Wolverine miniseries and those one-shots, at least a couple of them, take place a little bit after that, as far as where it's published, when it was published, after issue 30. So it was really hard for me to sit there and kind of think about, what's already been collected, what's not, how far do we go, how far ahead of the issues that I think are going to be in this volume do I go? So I had to just kind of stop myself before my head exploded. And I landed on a pretty easy answer of collecting 31 through 57 because that's...
We'll stop there for a second.
Okay.
Really quick, the most important super chat of the night.
Philly Collins, shout out 2020.
Well, my wife loves Phil Collins, and Kyle always super chats Phil Collins something.
Thank you.
So thank you. You made her night. She just got home from work.
You may continue.
Thank you, baby.
Should I prepare Phil Collins songs as our theme songs, or will we then you?
No, then you would have her on the show.
We get a content strike.
Yeah,
that's okay. It's a different show. Me and your wife singing Phil Collins songs.
Absolutely, that's a completely different show, Peter. So I wanted to stop you there because I wanted to see where Peter would stop. Just so let's break it down by just Wolverine issues first.
Sure.
So Ryley said 31 through 57. Damn it, that's gonna be hard not to talk about. Okay, something big significantly happens in 57. A couple of things. Peter, what do you think as far as Wolverine? When you've got this map written down, I know you've got a crushing crisis list somewhere. You're cheating, aren't you? You're using that douchebag's website, aren't you?
Oh, me? This douchebag? No, well, I mean, I remade this from scratch because I wanted to play fair. Just because I predicted in the past doesn't mean I agree with my past prediction. And Ryley, I think, brought up one of the major challenges in Wolverine is that it's not just Wolverine, it's also Marvel Comics Presents. But there are other challenges too. Wolverine didn't have annuals at this point, but he did get a yearly or more often original graphic novel. And so far, it looks like those are going into the essentials at the point of their publication, not at the point where they fit in continuity. So we can assume they're going to come in too. And then there's, of course, Wolverine's wide range of guest appearances. So as I map this, I originally was not going to go fully to 57 where Ryley arrived. I originally had it breaking at 50 just because it's starting to look like a kind of large book. And going to 55 forces us to include a few extra things. But now that I see that Meltdown's been included in volume 2 and the resulting page length, I think I'm comfortable saying that it can go to 57, which will bring us to late July 1992, and probably will bring in all of the things that parentheses will contain. And I think it'll still be under 1,300 pages.
All right. So I am in complete agreement with you, gentlemen. That's exactly where I would have stopped it. Basically because of two things, and I'm going to get to the super chats here in a second. But I just wanted to add the banner really quick. So far, collecting Wolverine 31 through 57. We're in agreement on that. Basically, two things happen in 57. One is the death of a major character, and two is the Mark Silvestri's final issue before he walks away and joins the Image Boys for Cyberforce. And I was thinking maybe they'll do like a Johnny Depp thing when he was in 21 Jump Street and keep the DVD for season 3, that one episode that was dangling from season 2. But I was like, do they really need it? Because they have some superstars. They have Mark Teixeira. Is that how you say his name? Teixeira? I always get it corrected. Somebody always corrects me, but I
hear it as Texera in my head when I read it.
That's the way I used to say it, but somebody told me there's a baseball player with the same last name. And then we also have the legendary Adam Kubert. Dwayne Turner comes in and draws issues, so they almost have their own superstar lineup for Omnibus 4. Now, really quick, you're gonna have to read this, Peter, and sing it. Is what I mean. I don't mean read it.
Oh gosh, how does that one? It's like, so take a look at me now. It's like something like that.
Yep.
Oh, there's just an empty space.
That's beautiful.
Like that. I have to get right on my Phil Collins for the next one.
That was worth it. That was worth it. And we got $5 thank you, Philip, and thank you, Ryan Blue Thunder. I'm not qualified to say what's in here, but I love this YouTube crossover talking about X-Men related anything. Thank you, brother, for the super chat. All right. Okay, see? Teixeira. Teixeira. I got that. Teixeira. So yeah, that guy's artwork's in there, and it's solid.
Also
has Mark Pacella, though.
If you look at the trade paperbacks, I mean, they effectively did 3 Hama Silvestri trade paperbacks, 2 of which are explicitly numbered, one of which isn't, that go to 57. But it's just, I think it's less almost about what would fit into this omnibus and more like what you saddle the next omnibus with and content. The next omnibus, whether we like it or not, it's very much the Wolverine loses his adamantium omnibus. And so you have to decide like how much story can fit in there. And if you stop this one before 57, do you force too much content into there where it can't tell a whole arc of that story? I went through one draft where I had 1 to 50 in this one, and then I had 1 to 7 or 51 to 75 in the next one. But I was like, who wants to end on 75? Like, and all the stuff is sucked out of his body. The end. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So that's why I came back to ending this one on 57.
Wait a minute. Let me clarify something. There might be some minor spoilers.
These comics are older than some of you. Okay.
Also true. But man, some people really get upset. Okay. So that was the easy part. We are all in agreement that Wolverine 31 through 57 seems like a pretty good, and then we'll do the page count, look at it. Now comes the fun part. because what else are we going to add? Because I myself also think Marvel Comics Presents needs to be in there. So let me the obvious choice for me is we pick this up right after Weapon X, right? So Weapon X ends in what, 80, 83, 84, thank you. So then we go with the Sam Keith story, the introduction of Cyber, who shows up later in Larry Hama's run. And Wolverine's like afraid of this guy because he has adamantium arms and has like poison needles coming out of his hands. And you're like, who's this guy if you didn't read Marvel Comics Presents? So that was the Blood Hungry storyline. So that's what I'm going to add in here. Like, and that is 89 through
92.
Thank you. 92. Yep. And it's got awesome artwork by Sam Keith. Yeah.
I got you.
All right. But it's not the only Marvel Comics Presents that he's in, because I mean he dominated Marvel Comics Presents. You can bet your ass that he was in just about every single one of those. Who wants to go next? Peter?
Sure. So look, I think that if we look at both Omnibus 1 and Omnibus 2, I'm a big fan of, is there data? And now we do have some data to support the way they're mapping this. And generally the way they're doing it is they're putting Marvel Comics Presents that are roughly analogous with the period of time that the actual Wolverine issues were released. Again, regardless of where the stories fit into continuity. The one time they have broken this rule is with the Barry Windsor Smith stuff, because clearly it's an origin, they put it in the first one, right? So that explains where the first one's MCP issues cut off. I always say MCP to abbreviate it. It explains where the second one's cut off. And so I think in this third one, we're going to pick it up at 85, as Omar said. I think we're at least going to go through 100. He has an ongoing story in 85 to 93. Then he doesn't have his own ongoing for a few issues. And then he's got some one-off stories, I believe, in 98, 99, and 100. And then the question is if they would also go for 101 to 108, which is another story that brings us right around that time that 57 comes out. So I'm starred, definitely in for 85 through 93 and 98 through 100. I am question mark, but probable on 101 to 108.
Okay, so let's break it down, because we have it's a flashback story, if I'm not mistaken, after the Cyber storyline, and then there's the two issues, which is really a nightmare issue, because if I remember, like issue 100 was the big nightmare, like he's interacting with all these different characters, Wolverine being in one of them, so you can just leave the Wolverine parts in. The next story arc I think is really necessary, though, the 101 to 108. And that's the Nightcrawler, like the buddy. Like,
yeah, it's a good one.
And Scott Lobdell, I think, wrote that one. So I would take it to 108. And that's, I mean, it seems like a lot, but so I would go, that's, okay, so I would go, yes, from some Blood Hungry all the way to Mel Bonding. That's it. 108.
Sounds very wholesome.
What do you think, Ryley? Where would you?
This is going to be the like so much less exciting than the last one, because that's literally what I have.
Okay. Damn it, we're agreeing with each other. But I had 85. Some things are going to have to go realistically. Like,
so I had 85 to 108, and it was, like you said, Blood Hungry. That was Peter David and Sam Keith from 85 to 92. 93 to 98, I had as Tim Truman's Wild Frontier. So I know that Peter was saying some of those didn't have Wolverine, but that's just from what I had looked up. 99 had a story, Hauntings, by Rob Liefeld, Howard Mackey, and Jim Valentino. 100 was the issue, like Omar was saying, so they can at least have Wolverine's part. That was Mackey with Sam Keith. And then 101 through 108 from Scott Lobdell with Gene Colan is the Male Bonding with Nightcrawler.
And you gotta have 99, if only for the reason to have this as one of the variant covers.
Dude, yeah.
Sam Keith, take on John Burns. My turn. Oh my gosh.
You know, the reason I left out 93, 98, not that he doesn't appear, but I think I got wires crossed because that's been collected in that prehistory trade, which puts it into that like Wolverine origin story stuff. But clearly, as I said, other than the BWS classic Weapon X story, we're kind of just collecting these when they show up. So I think you're right. 93 through 98 will still be there, even though it's an earlier continuity story.
I think it works in our advantage as far as mapping this, that they did put the Weapon X storyline in the first one, because we can put all of these stories from 85 all the way through 108, like I just run through, And if each of those is about 8 pages, that's less than 200 pages worth of material.
Yep.
It's not too hard to work with. It's a good little chunk of material. It's not too intrusive.
And honestly, with Marvel Comics Presents, as much as I love Sam Keith's covers, as much as I love all those Joe Mad covers, I would take them as just little thumbnails, like 4 on each page instead of the full splash, just to make room for more story. So here's a good question that we all three of us can answer. The John Byrne variant or the Barry Windsor Smith variant for Wolverine Omnibus 2? I'm going for Jim Lee. That's the cover that I want. That's the classic Jim Lee cover with Wolverine jumping with his claws. The cover to the video game. I've always liked that picture. What about you two?
I'm going Smith on this one.
Even though that story does not appear.
It doesn't appear, but I love Barry Windsor Smith, and I love that image.
What about you, Pete?
I believe I pre-ordered the Lee cover just for the same reasons as you. It's just of that era. It's very emblematic of that era of Wolverine, so that's the one that I want to be able to pick up and see off my shelf.
I just remember thinking as soon as I saw the covers, so I got excited right when he told me there was a Wolverine Omnibus Volume 2 coming, and he sent me the covers before the content. I didn't even ask for the content because I was just so excited. And I saw Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X, and I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. Oh wait, that was in the first omnibus. Are they double dipping? Is my excitement gonna immediately go away? And of course, I looked at the content later on, like a day or so later, and sure enough, it's not in there. All right. So Ryley, where would be a good cutoff point for you? So you're okay taking it to 108, or you want to cut it where?
That's where I got it. I think because that's isn't that also at about the same? That's the issue that is from about the same time as Wolverine 57, isn't it?
Now that I think it goes a little past that.
108 was early September 1992. And 57 was late July 1992. So we are pushing past
just
2 more months, but it's to complete the story. So I don't,
yeah, I don't want to leave any dangling.
That's exactly, like, now that you say it, that's exactly what I was thinking, because I was like, all right, 57, and where do we end? Oh, that's the middle of the storyline. No, let's go a little bit further.
All right, so Peter mentioned graphic novels. Original graphic novels.
Oh boy.
Coming out every year. Sometimes there's 2 coming out every year. Sometimes there were follow-ups to those. Ryley, you want to take this one first? Which graphic novel is essential to Wolverine Omnibus Volume 3? I think some people in the chat have already talked about it.
Yeah, there's only 2 that I think were from that time. Definitely one is Reign of Terra, and the other one is Bloody Choices.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the 2 that I would say need to go in there. I don't think there was anything else that was published around that time, though.
So Bloody Choices. Okay, Reign of Terra. That's Andy Kubert on artwork.
And that was August 1991, so squarely in the middle.
And I think the follow-up isn't until 1994, right? 1993, 94, something like that. Bloody Choices. Is that the Falco story?
Yeah, Tom DeFalco with John Buscema.
Buscema. That's it. Okay.
That's June 1991.
Still squarely in our strike zone here.
It's got a nice Joe Jusko cover.
Now, these are long OGNs. I went and checked the page length, and they are both 66 pages of story content. So this is really going to boost our page count. Some OGNs in this time are not really OGNs, they're just double length and they're 48, but these are full 68, 66
All right.
pages.
Peter, you okay with keeping both of those? Are they essential?
I am, and I think we might also wind up picking up Hearts of Darkness.
Yeah, my man. That's where I was going to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was December 1991, and it's only 48 pages.
And Heart of Darkness always seemed like a Ghost Rider Wolverine crossover, because everybody forgets about Punisher being on that cover because they didn't pull it all the way out the cover. So I love that. That's Howard Mackie, John Romita Jr. I do have some artwork to show. I could show that. But I think it's very important to have Reign of Terra. I think it's very important to have Heart of Darkness and Bloody Choices.
Well, and it's worth remarking on that even in the Hama Silvestri trades, even though Hama and Silvestri aren't on Reign of Terra, right? Reign of Terror is in there. So Marvel has already considered it important enough to Wolverine's chronology to shove it into a trade where it didn't necessarily have a home. So I have no doubt that it's going to wind up in the omnibus.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what we have so far. I've got a couple of more things, but I'm curious if you all would how many more do you have to add, Peter?
Potentially as many as 10.
Wow.
Oh my God!
Some of them are not full
Okay,
issues.
okay. I swear you better throw my Charleston Chew in there.
Of course. Okay.
my bad. Okay.
Let's share some childhood trauma for a second. I didn't even like Charleston Chew, but
I hated Charleston Chew, but I had to have
I
that.
put it in the mail, and we lived in a bad neighborhood, and we had a little mail drop box on our porch, and I checked that thing every day for at least a year, thinking this is going to be the day that my Charleston Chew comic gets here. And then I was like, they stole my Charleston Chew comic. No, it just never probably got fulfilled. It probably got lost in the mail, or I wrote the address wrong because I was like 10 years old. But to this day, I still have trauma whenever I see that cover where I'm like, not the Charleston Chew comic. You better believe as an adult that I bought that thing off of my comic shop. They're like, who's the freak ordering this candy bar comic? It was me. That one and the Pizza Hut comics too.
Why are
So
you
anyway,
eating
that better be in there.
Chew?
It's 8 pages. I think they can fit it. It's called Give Me a Break.
Titus, thank you so much for reminding me. I just fixed that. So are we really gonna? I was serious about adding that book in there.
Ryley, back me up, friend. Come on.
That's all I had on this one, because I was looking at mine and I was like, okay, I'm not going to be that guy this time. I want to be the sensible, like, all right, this is all the issues I've got. So that was my map. I already went through everything of mine.
I'm adding the Charleston Chew.
So now it's just a duel between Omar and I to see how much.
It's gonna be interesting. Let's get ridiculous. Okay, I know. I'm curious as to what your other ones are. Okay.
I like this. Do you know what I have 3 more chunks of things, possibly a 4th.
Do you? And I know you have to have this on here, even though it's horrible. The Marvel Fanfare 54 and 55.
Yeah, somebody in the chat earlier was like, oh, it didn't fit into number 2, but actually it was released right on the edge of this group of content, and it's not that long. I think they're also 8 pages each. I can look at my notes. I think you easily can pick them up here.
And also not that good. Not that good.
We're not here to make value judgments on the material. It's 1990.
You know how I always say this about these books, like when people are like, "Oh man, that doesn't really belong in there because that wasn't written by Grant Morrison." And I'm like, "How are you going to appreciate all the good things if you don't go through the crap?" That's what I told my wife when she was reading Uncanny Volume 2. I think she got to the Man-Thing story, and she's like, "I don't even know who this Man-Thing guy is." And I was like, "You don't stop reading. You keep going." What is that, 144? I was like, that's how you appreciate all the other good stories that are coming.
Yeah, they're 8 pages each, and they were released in December 1990.
All right.
So it's in the zone because Wolverine started in September 1990. So it was during this period.
So to recap, this is what this brain trust has so far. 31 through 57, Marvel Comics percent 85 through 108. I hope David watches this one day. He's like, oh my God, these guys would never get a job. Here, they put it garbage. Marvel Fanfare 54 55, Heart of Darkness. This is where we're going to have to cut, I think. Reign of Terror, Charleston Chew special. I'm fighting for that one. And Wolverine Bloody Choices. I had to put that before Bloody Choices. I don't know why.
All right, so now we're getting into the maybe material. There's a couple of maybes that I really don't think would go in, but I think we would be remiss not to mention them.
How are you keeping up with the chat and talking at the same time, Peter?
I don't know.
Literally just typed that as you were talking. You're a master. By the way, I did want to show some of the art that we're talking about. So let's head to the. How do I do this? This stupid thing. Never mind. I'm still going to show some of the art. Give me a second, please.
Okay, I'll just vamp. You know, the great thing about Wolverine is that we can't even do like a Punish or a Venomnibus style of Wolverine, because Venomnibus actually is doing a really good job of getting almost all of his guest appearances where it was more than a panel.
Look at that. Heart of Darkness, man. I can't wait for that.
I mean, that's good JR, where it just looks totally muscular and just pulsing with action.
It's when he was inked by Klaus Janson. And here's the Peter David, Andy Kubert, Reign of Terror.
You know, I don't know if I've ever read that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's solid, man. It's kind of like the Kitty Pryde telling the bedtime stories. But I really dug it. Ooh, we can talk about covers and what our favorite stories are. All right, Peter,
Okay.
throw it to
Can we
me.
continue?
What do you
these,
got?
these are the maybes. One of the maybes, of course, the extremely famous Fantastic Four 347 through 349. The new Fantastic Four, Wolverine is one of the members.
Absolutely.
If we follow the pattern of Volume 1 and Volume 2, if there's an incredibly significant outside appearance, it could be worth putting in here. And it's only 3 issues. I don't think Wolverine's significant enough in that story to really be worth it, personally.
So
but we would be remiss not to mention it.
It was so pretty.
Yeah.
Arthur Adams, Kaiju, Walter Simonson writing it. I came very close to adding that. I'm like, there's no way.
I'm not going to be sad if it's not there.
So I'll put that as a maybe.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Wolverine and Punisher Damaging Evidence 1 through 4.
I thought about that, but when did those come out? Because I thought I put that in my volume 4.
Oh, did I steal them too soon? I might have got excited.
No, I don't think you did. I think it was just too many.
October 1993. So that's too late. That's got to go into the next one.
Okay. So that's one we've axed, one maybe. What about you? Well, Ryley, anything else? Anything else coming?
No, like I said, I was trying to play it safe on this one. Okay. I just ended with the because I know Peter said about like adding significant appearances and stuff, but like Volume 2 didn't really have any of that. It was all like Wolverine in the title.
It was straight up Wolverine.
Yeah, the first one had that because it had Cap, it had Punisher, and all kinds of that stuff. But the second one, it's just straight up. If Wolverine's not in the title, it's I mean, aside from, but Marvel Comics Presents was pretty much a secondary Wolverine magazine anyway.
Yes.
But doesn't David Gabriel hate orphaned issue stories? He does. Because we talk about that all the time. That's how I try to talk him into making X Factor go longer. But he said, not this time. I said, okay. Did you have Inner Fury in there? Because that was one of the ones that I was a maybe for me.
I think Inner Fury will wind up in the next one. It's like right on the borderline release timeline wise. And so I just put it into the next one. From November 92.
Oh, thank you so much, Fiero Valentine. Almost said Valiente. I don't know why, because that first name. Fiero. Yeah, so I that was on the border. I was like, maybe I can put this too. But really, it depended on where you two wanted to stop. I'm like, if these cats get crazy and want to go to 65, I could put Inner Fury in there, and I can make this a 2,000-page omnibus.
Well, the other argument about Inner Fury, though, is, these OGNs get weird in placement, but Inner Fury actually places a little bit later in terms of read order than when it was actually released. So we don't gain anything from putting it here because it fits better with the issues of Wolverine that are more into the 60s. So like putting it this early doesn't, and we'd now be like 5 months past the cutoff of Wolverine 57. So it kind of just, I wanted to, and then I was like, doesn't really have to. And then I have 2 things that I don't think will be in there, but again, I just want to mention them to show that we thought through it.
Throw them at me.
So there's Wolverine's arc in Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man 8 through 12. I don't think that should go in this omnibus. I'm just saying it because it
shouldn't
exists.
Go anywhere.
One that I kind of think maybe could it is Uncanny X-Men 268, just because it's so famous and it's from this release period. But again, I don't. It would kind of be weird.
It's been printed in
there. Yeah.
It's been printed in the XXL, the Epic Collection, the Omnibus. Man, I don't know. That is one of my all-time top 10 favorite X-Men stories. But thank you so much for this awesome super chat. Rotner. Oh, where's my wife? She helps me with names. Whatever Omar's drinking during this chat, here's something for your next chat. Thank you so much.
Aww.
My next chat's tomorrow morning, so I will take. And get some coffee with that. I'm not drinking mimosas.
Bloody Mary.
I'm not above that. All right.
I think we have our book.
Okay.
I really do. I don't know. Would you have anything else, Omar? I've been major talker the last couple minutes.
No. I was seeing if you were going to add Charleston Chew. If you were not, I was going to boot you off of the show.
Oh, well. I've already been kicked off once before.
No, you haven't. That was you leaving because of internet problems. So, everybody in the chat, this is what we've mapped out so far. Oh, my gosh. Good idea. My wife said good idea on the mimosa. All right. Thanks, Peter. So, Wolverine 31 through 57, Marvel Comics Presents 85 through 108. Keep in mind, those are 8-page stories. Marvel Fanfare 54 and 55, also 8-page stories. Heart of Darkness, these are the big ones. Reign of Terror, Charleston Chew Special. Yes. Wait, Charleston Chew Special had the Sam Keith on the cover.
It did with yeah,
Jubilee
it's a
in the
great
back.
cover.
And Wolverine Bloody Choices. Bam. This is Omnibus Volume 3. Manny, War Journal 6 and 7 was in Wolverine Omnibus Volume 1. If I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
I'm not mistaken.
You gotta get Hearts of Darkness in that listing.
I thought I had it. It's there.
Yeah,
Didn't
it's on there.
Is it
It's
there?
after Fanfare.
I even
Okay.
called it Wolverine Hearts of Darkness. Heart of
Okay.
Darkness.
Heart of Darkness.
I'm sorry. You're right, Peter. I misspelled it.
Surely that's why I forgot. Not because I was trying to read
Exactly
that.
why you were reading the chat. I don't know how you're keeping up, brother. Hearts of Darkness. There we go. Everybody, Wolverine Omnibus Volume 3. Kirk, you missed it, man. We we talked about that earlier. Our anonymous source at Diamond, Ryley, sent this over to us, and there you go, buddy.
Oh man.
All the complaining and all the text between David and I, because they weren't gonna do it at first. I didn't tell you all. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you. Never mind. But I've been drinking. They didn't want to do it because they said it was adult content. And then my argument and his argument was, what 13-year-old is going to buy a $125 book? This is a book for men, women, not kids. So that was the counter argument, and I guess it worked. So now it's added on there.
Now, so we can only figure out where those 3 orphaned Marvel superheroes X-Men stories should go, because they've been left out too. And those are the other ones that give me agita, awake at night, mapping X-Men in my head. It's always been Meltdown and those Marvel superheroes 1990 anthology stories. Because they could have. Yeah, I don't know where they'll probably wind up in epics. It'll be one of those, like, the epics are a little bit different than the Uncanny X-Men omnibuses. Buy them, you fools.
I'm 50 and I'm buying it. Well, I said 13. The kid who bought all the Silver Age Omnis. That's right. What's his name? Graham. Graham buys all. He's 12 years old and buys Silver Age Omnis. Yeah, I wasn't a man until I bought an Omni. That does put some hair on your chest. Well,
so what's our? I was just wondering, like, do we need to cut anything out? Like, what's our page count right now?
Oh, I thought that's what you were doing. Well, while Peter and I were going back and forth.
Oh well, shit.
All right, we'll do this together. All right, let's realistically look at this and see what we can cut, because I don't think we can
cut, dude. I really don't.
Well, let's just make sure. I just want to make sure that we're not being, because that was why I was trying to be really conservative about it, was just so I wouldn't be in the place where you guys were like, why are you trying to make a 1,500 page book again? So that's 27 issues of Wolverine. What page number do you give that? 23 pages? 25 pages?
50 is the double page.
I have notes on this. Give me 1 minute.
Looking at I was just gonna look at the trade paperbacks of the Silvestri era.
Like, you can do that too.
Weapon X is 279.
Most of them you can go 23.
279, 276. 276 and
50 has 40.
274. So we're looking at 279, 272, and 279.
So that's 830, and you're talking about the content from the two.
Just Wolverine 30. That's literally that, and that also includes Reign of Terror.
Yeah, so you're talking about
Jungle Adventure and Bloodlust, which are in the previous omnibus.
So we can take away about 120 pages.
Yeah.
Okay.
You are absolutely correct. So minus 120, we're at 710 roughly.
Awesome.
And that's a lot of bonus material, because they have like all the different cards and stuff shown in the back of these, like all the old Marvel cards.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're getting the same content, like the same bonus stuff, that's about 710 right now is where we're at.
How many beers did Omar have before adding Charleston Chew? Let me tell you something. Peter's drinking water, and he added Charleston Chew. Just like the Venom book, Spider-Man versus Venom. Remember that? What was that? That was a giveaway too. The Pizza Hut comics. I'm adding those to my.
We'll
X-Men.
never get those. That's never going to happen, unfortunately.
Okay, so
All right, so 710 pages
110.
just for Wolverine 31 through 57 plus Reign of Terra.
Mhm.
Giving us what do we need for what are the other books that we added? So then we have
Bloody Choices and The Heart of Darkness.
so let's just round those up to about 140. Where are we at?
140. We're at 850.
This is awesome. Okay.
And then 85 through 108 of MCP, which is another 24 issues, only 8-ish pages each. There might be one where he's in 2 stories, but let's just call it 8 pages each, I think, plus covers, maybe. He's usually on the cover, so we could call it 9 issues each times 24 issues.
Let's do that. So 9 pages, 24 issues.
9 times 24.
216. This is where it's going to add up.
16. We're over 1,000. We're at 1066 now.
We're okay. Wolverine Volume 2 just went up to 1,200 pages, so we're still okay.
And all that we're missing right now, I think, from this game of edition is Charleston Chew for another 8 story pages and 1 cover page.
Well, how much is Fanfare for?
Oh, you found it. Look, she found the ad. She went out to the garage to go.
Oh, that was the I'm going to the garage. Get real close so we can see the cover. He's holding Jubilee back.
Yeah,
I love it.
So ridiculous. And I think the back had Spider-Man on it.
Yeah, wrestling somebody who looks a lot like Miguel, but it's not. It's like some rando character.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, baby. I didn't know that's what you were. Why are you carrying a bunch of boxes? That's our comics, by the way. My comics do not go in the garage. They stay here in a climate control room. No, on the back of the Charleston Chew one. So where are we at with the final page count?
So we're at
1074,
but how many pages? Or I added Charleston Chew, that was 8 pages.
Yeah. With the cover, 9.
Let me add 1 page. Okay, 1075. Now how many pages for the Fanfare?
Those are probably
it's not on the cover, so they're only 8-page stories each.
Because this is like Black Knight on the cover, I think. So
yeah.
So for those of you just now tuning in, this is what we decided is going to be in Wolverine Omnibus Volume 3.
So that's just about 1,100 pages.
Perfect. Able to take my credit card number. Let's go.
You put all those extras in there from different covers. Man, we can even give some real like splash page covers in Marvel Comics Presents because we went with 9 pages on those.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So you're not shrinking them down or anything, and we also, like I had mentioned, we're counting all the pages of each of these the Silvestri paperbacks, which means that we're also counting all of the additional extras that were already in here.
Right.
So that's a solid, 20, 30 pages worth of extras. Oh, look at Wolverine in his trunks.
Oh, swimsuit. There was a 91 and 92 swimsuit. So aren't the MCP issues only 85 through 92 and 101 through 108? I thought 93 and 1. They did include him. But like 99 and 100 were the Nightmare stories. I want to say 93 to 97 were like flashback issues, like before he joined the X-Men.
Because they're in Wolverine prehistory trade.
Oh, they are in the trade paperback?
Yeah. I'm trying to get zero in on who
commenting
wrote it.
On what Peter's talking about. This is so meta.
Writer Timothy Webster Truman, penciler Todd Fox, Wild Frontier. Ringing any bells? Anybody? Ryley knew.
That's what I had in my notes. I had just done the little research.
Okay. Now, the greatest thing about this omnibus is the artwork. Like some of the great. I mean, Larry Hama's my favorite Wolverine writer. But right from the beginning, man, with Mark Silvestri just kicking all sorts of ass on this book. So one of my favorite standalone Wolverine issues takes place during this run. Like, actually, it is my favorite Wolverine issue of all time. And that is Wolverine 34, A Devil in the Dark. I freaking love this story. This is the story that I used to give my friends that didn't read comics.
Really?
I love this story.
Why do you pick it that hard? What is it about it?
Just before it became this like trope of Wolverine having this secret past and everybody remembering him in every issue, like, hey, I remember that guy. This one stood alone. Like, this is the first time I remember something like that happening, and you asking yourself, well, how old is this guy?
Mm.
Right, because this is right before Marvel Comics presents Weapon X. There was that story in issue 25 where he talked about, running with the wolves, and is that really a folk tale, or is that really what happened to him? Where he's a kid that was raised by wolves. But this one kind of set he's been around for a while. And then, oh man, I love that ending. The Hunter in the Darkness. It's one of my favorite Wolverine story. And man, we've got some awesome covers to choose from.
Oh, so many.
Can I tell you one, like, an issue that none of us mentioned that, like, just for the cover I kind of would want to see in here?
Sure.
Is just so it has an option of being, and I want to make sure I'm getting the right one. Just so it's an option for one of the covers is number 59.
59.
The one with Terror?
No, that's Wolverine looking like the Terminator.
Yeah, like he got his
hair like all flicked,
and he's got claws, right?
Sunglasses on.
He cut his hair.
Yeah,
I remember how iconic that was, and how I thought, man, that's awesome. And then, like, within 5 pages, he got his hair grown back because he can regenerate quick. That one wasn't written by him.
No,
it was written by the guy that did Terror NYC.
Yeah, there's 2 fill-in issues that place a little bit later.
It's DG Chichester.
Yeah.
I have never known how to say his name, but yeah, he did a couple of fill-in issues before Hama came back without Silvestri. So it's something that, like, we'd have if we wanted to throw it in there. We have the pages available. It could go in there, just extend it a little bit more, I could have that cover.
Ended on that story though.
It fits later in continuity though, because it was a fill-in. It if I'm not, I could be mistaken, but I think those issues fit in a little bit later, like after a couple of issues.
Honestly, I'm sticking with 57. 57, I think, is such.
I like it.
Like, also, 57's cover is striking. It would be one of my top choices to be the cover for this collection.
There's only one choice, gentlemen, for the cover to this. And
let's see.
Hear me out. I've actually joked about this to David, but I'm going to send him a serious email. I want a limited. No, damn, Charleston Chew. Stay with me. I want a limited direct market variant of Wolverine number 50 die cut cover.
I just said that in chat.
Did you? Dude, I'm 100. I don't know if you were joking. I am 100% serious. I want a limited run, like a limited print of the direct market, our very first omnibus with a gimmick cover, just to get that die cut. Oh my god, I would be so happy. Then they can do Ghost Rider with a glowing skull, and we can get chromium covered. Yes. Oh my god, yes, please. Because I mean, DC has done it. DC has done it with that DC 52 villains omnibus that they did, that like a chromium cover on it.
Wasn't that one like the 3D kind of cover?
Yeah, it had like that. I think it's called a chromium.
And they've done die cut or covers. Well, they didn't do die cut. Like the cover of the one I'm thinking of is the Joker story from Snyder's Batman. The first Joker, Death of the Family, I think is it.
Oh,
the hardcover has like his face, and you can pull it off, and it's like underneath the face.
Right.
So like DC's done weird stuff.
With Marvel, it seems like they're trying to get away from that die stamping life, because ever since they've gone, or die cutting, I mean, it's all a die. If you know how things are printed on a mechanical printing press, it's just some kind of metal die, and it's whether it makes a kind of shallow strike to create a deboss and then put a foil in, or if you do a strike all the way through the thing and do a die cut. And all Marvel omnibuses used to have a die set deboss on the cover, right? If you open up any of your classic omnibuses from like before 2014, and it seems like they just wanted to get away from that life with these matte cover omnibuses, because there's no die strike, which makes the printing process cheaper because you don't have to do a die strike on every board as it's coming off the press. So if we were talking about die cutting an actual cover, which I am into, because that's the kind of insanity that I like, that seems to be like really going, that would cost extra money. But if we're just talking about a dust jacket with a die cut, that is eminently possible.
No, I don't want to fake it. I really want. Look, here's my argument. Stay with me,
But if it was
David.
the dust jacket, it could be just like the actual issue because you could see the thing.
It could be like, look, man, it's going to cost you less money. It's less paper. There's like literally, look, 3 holes. Like, this is my pitch to David. There's literally 3 hole marks right across, and you can put the 3 holes in the back too. Actually, no, the back was the back. And then he's like, I'm never talking to you again. This is the most ridiculous idea I've heard.
You can tell him it was my idea.
If we're being realistic, I think an actual possibility cover for this that has not been used for a collection already is the prior cover from 49.
49. I love 48, Naked Wolverine, and that's one of my favorites.
Isn't that the cover of Wolverine Unbound?
It is. But you like Wolverine 49, huh? Let me find
just because 48's been taken already. I think 48 isn't actually an excellent cover.
Wolverine 49 has Jean in the back, right? Like, and he's in the front, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Cross-selling some X-Men tie-in potential here, folks. Jean Grey and Professor X do guest star.
Let me see. I don't know. I still like my die cut idea. You're trying to make that not happen, Peter.
You know what? You could do like a home project version. You just buy the omnibus,
cut it myself.
get the bandsaw, show everybody how to do it. It could be like a new DIY segment.
You want this as one of the covers? Okay.
I think that's the best choice of the standard Wolverine books from this run for a cover that has not been used already.
Okay, Ryley, what do you think, buddy? What would you put as a cover? And then we'll go through the chat, see what everybody thinks.
Yes,
Titus knows what's up. 125 for normal, 150 for die cut. Where's Matthew? Matthew's like, no, let the covers BS die. Just this one time, Matthew, stay with me. Just this one time. All right, let's. Ryley, what do you think?
Earlier, when you mentioned the that one Sam Keith cover that was after Burns artwork, literally as I was putting this all together, that was one of the covers. I was like, oh man, that would be nice.
It's a good one.
I would love to have that one, at least as a variant.
I love that one. That one's a good one. I want, like, if I were to pick a standard edition cover. Oh yeah, I got it right here, man. How often do you see Wolverine? What is that? Oh, it's a Gatling gun. Man, that's awesome. I think, like, for standard cover, I like 33. 33, like that I use for.
I was thinking about that.
It's simple.
It's very Death of Wolverine, but that sells.
Yeah, it's Silvestri. But then if you have that's the thing though. Like if you have a penciler like Silvestri, you're wanting to cash in on his art, right? So you have to put it on the cover. So I was thinking they're probably going to go with something like this, which is the next cover to the Epic. But this has Sabretooth and Cable, and it's the whole mystery of, like, is Sabretooth really his daddy? Thought of this one too, 55. Just because it shows some X-Man like Peter wants.
Yeah, but Wolverine's so small. He's not the primary figure on it. Like, I feel like, I don't know, you guys probably pay more attention to the DM covers than me, but it feels like on the main cover, they like to really sell whoever's like in the omnibus. And then the DM cover, sometimes they'll go with like a classic issue where maybe the main star of the omnibus is not as like front and center. I don't know. Is it just me anecdotally feeling that way? Or do you feel like that's often the way that things work lately?
I got lost when somebody said you can't show Wolverine smoking on the cover, and I broke my heart.
Hey, it's already got we already have a mature
got
rating
a Charleston
for the second.
Chew in his mouth.
That's my buddy Vincent.
And that's allowed.
They can replace it with a Charleston Chew. You sicken me. Wait. Hold on. This is I forgot. Yes, the 3 claws for Volume 3. Man, look at that money maker.
That's a born marketer right there.
Let's go back to my Wolverine Terminator cover then, because he's got the 3 claws as well.
This one? Oh, you mean we're not adding that to comic. That can be volume. This is Larry Hama's Prime. We already have we have a Peter David fill-in issue with issue 44. But I still like that issue. Drawn by Larry Stroman, I think. It's the one where he's fighting the creature underwater. And then we have issue 50. Is it 51? No. 54 with, or 52. The one with Shatterstar. And that one's written by Fabian CSF.
Anyway, Here, I'm gonna support Ryley for a second here on
Thank you.
squeezing in
Mhm.
those two issues, 58 and 59. At the point that they're fill-in issues, they would be the first issues in the next omnibus, and that's kind of a crappy experience to start an omnibus with fill-in issues. So we could, even though they don't quite fit in with this, just shove them here because continuity-wise, they don't count for anything. We easily have another 42 pages we could fill in this book, and it lets the next book start cold with a Hannah story.
Man, but how would, as a reader, I would be so even though it did happen this way when it were coming out monthly, right? Or I'm sorry, at the time they were coming out by
Twice monthly.
twice a month. Yeah. So something happens where a character dies, and then the next thing is like he's teaming up with this dude named Terror. It's
Well,
drawn
there's
by
going to be a
Garrett
bunch of
Robertson.
MCP and other stuff at the back of this omnibus anyway as like extra material. It's not going to feel like you got to the end of a book and then there's this like totally rando epilogue. Like a third of the book is going to be stuff because I mean we haven't seen Wolverine Volume 2 yet, so we don't know. And I'm trying to think of how they do it in the Epic collections. Do they track the OGNs in order of when they were chronologically released, or did they put them all at the end?
Oh, that's a good question. I thought
Because
they had scattered them about because that's what I was going to do with here.
In these paperbacks, they're like the Wolverine Silvestri Volume 1, Hama Silvestri. They put those where they were published, I believe.
Same in the Epic.
And see, that's the way I would do it here.
Yeah.
But here they have the capability of saying, okay, you know what? We could technically put Reign of Terra here. Because some stories have to happen before issue 50. Because in issue 50 is where he says, hey, I'm going to wear this costume from now on. And then as to, past issue 51 is when he's wearing the gold and blue costume instead of the brown and gold. Or, I'm sorry, yellow and blue instead of brown and gold.
Alternatively, if they did leave those issues for Volume 4, they could just take them to the back and like have them out of publication order because they don't fit great narratively. That's just throwing it out there.
You guys almost talked me into putting those stupid issues in here. I'm like, okay.
The more and more Ryley says it, the more it makes sense. In continuity order, they actually don't fit until after 65. So the two options are either tack them onto the end of this and just call it a day, or in the next one, still start cold with 60, and then have them after so that the reading experience still starts with a Hannah story. Or just run them in chronological order and have your next omnibus start with a crappy story.
Nah, let's put them in here and then end it with...
And then I can have my cover.
Yeah,
I love
that. Go ahead, Omar.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and I love Derek Robertson. He's one of my favorite artists, but I would not put that as a cover. I'm trying to think of what would be the ending though, like Bloody Choices, maybe, to be the book end of this story.
I don't know.
A letter from the author saying I'm sorry.
I don't even remember who wrote. You said it was Deech.
Yeah.
Man, okay. I will. I still want to pay $150. We'll make that happen. You know what? You pay me $150. I'll cut the book for you.
You know what they could do? That just spitballing is like they could have that cover of 50, and then like have the underneath be what was behind the original cover, and then you could have the option to X-Acto knife it out yourself.
So
if you are brave enough.
Really, I think that works. A die-cut dust jacket would be pretty cool. I just don't think you're going to get the die-cut cover board.
We're doing it. We're doing it, Peter.
But the reason why I think it would be best for them to be like a DIY type thing, like you can do it if you want on your own book, is because can you imagine how many damaged copies would be coming in? Where because we get dust jackets on books when they get shrink wrapped, get foobar all the time. And if you have a die cut
edges, it's not even like a clean die cut, like a circle.
You'd have so many of these covers would get ripped when they get shrink wrapped, they get messed up in transit. You'd have so many people complaining to Marvel about it. So like it would either have to be like Omar said, like a very limited edition of it, to where like maybe they'd have to box them like DC does their absolutes and have them in their own little sheath. Or do a DIY.
All right. So final okay. I'm gonna add I'm adding it in here, damn it. 59. Final issue.
Parentheses question mark.
59. That means we're kicking it off. 60. Is that Mark Pacella? Or is that Teixeira? Anyway, so here's our final mapping. 31 through 59. Marvel Fanfare 54 and 55. Marvel Comics presents 85 through 108. Wolverine Hearts of Darkness. Even though it's Wolverine Punisher Ghost Rider. But hey, we all know. Reign of Terra. Charleston Chew Special. Yes. And Wolverine Bloody Choices. That is our final mapping. Is everyone happy? Peter was asking, is everybody happy with this book? Is this a must buy? Of course it's a must buy. We mapped it. We'll sign it. We'll bill Marvel for mapping this, and then they can be like, get the hell out of here. Who put Wolverine 59 in this damn omnibus? It's not how you finish an omnibus. And as far as covers, gentlemen, 59. Let me find out so everybody can see this.
I really love that cover.
Wrong. It's an awesome cover, but it's just the book is nothing like that. It's ridiculous. What about Peter? What was your final say?
I think it's going to be your 3 claws one, or it's going to be 49, only because they already. But you know what? I was saying they already used 48, but they already used this cover on an Epic collection, and it's going to be on the omnibus. So maybe they just use 48 again.
So Naked Wolverine.
That was one of your top choices.
It was. It's a badass cover. All right. So, gentlemen, recap. Ryley's choice. Let me get the this out of there. There's Ryley's cover right there.
That's my DM variant.
This is so ridiculous. Okay. My standard edition. This is my standard edition. Everybody loves it. Wolverine 3. And then my limited edition, rich people only, $150 die cut cardboard cover. And let me get to Peter's. This was your choice, but you want to.
That is my choice. I think it should be that. It's got him in the costume, the golden tan. I think that's the one. It's got look at that hair. I mean, that's like the Michael Jackson thriller video as the werewolf is like halfway through the transformation.
Okay. If you guys are talking about Wolverine 3, when is Volume 2 coming out? Volume 2 comes out, I think in June or July.
June 16th.
There you go, June 16th.
That's the date right now. But as you always say, these things move around all the time.
Absolutely. Wolverine Omnibus Volume 3, Spring 2022. Make it happen. We're going to make that happen.
Man, what a happy ending for this one. This is like such a turn. I feel like we're at each other's throats last time.
Yeah, last time I was like, hell no, we're taking that. I did almost say we're cutting that shit, but I did stop Peter with his Fantastic Four nonsense. I'm like, ain't no Fantastic Four gonna touch my Wolverine book.
First of all, last time he almost pitted us against each other. Let's be clear. Just when it seemed like we were in agreement, he was like, "Are you sure? One book or two?" And then so let's not pretend we were war before he fomented the rebellion.
What was the final consensus? Did we say 1 or 2? You said
you convinced me to say
I said 2. I convinced you.
Peter,
so are we ready to map volumes 4, 5, 6, and 7 now? Is everybody ready? Let's go.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Peter's got it all done already.
Silence. Because look, I'll just throw this out for a second. I think that this is really interesting because Volume 4 is actually the hardest one to map because it's got the adamantium stuff right in the middle of it. The urge is to take it as far as like 90 or 100, but then you're not going to have as much room for the MCP stuff. We have an epic that ends at 75, and we have an epic that ends at 86. And so the big question in Volume 4, is it going to be a shorter one? Because if you ended at 75, that is not much content. We just went through 60. Or do you push it all the way to 86, in which case it's going to be a big one. And so that was like my hesitation at the beginning of this of like, should we even push past 50 in this one? Because I was thinking like, should the next one end with 75 or not? So I actually think of all 7 Wolverine Omnibus maps, the next one, volume number 4, is the hardest map to do. And then everything is just smooth sailing after volume 4 because the epics have kind of already sketched it out. And MCP is for the most part over in terms of Wolverine stories after volume 4. Volume 4 is the hard one.
I think volume 4 will be a lot of fun to map. Let's keep that one open for the future.
Yeah.
So let's see here. There's a couple questions. One of the most important ones. Does Peter have a YouTube? Peter. I figure you can answer that one.
I do. So I'm usually known throughout the internet as Crisis with a K, but on YouTube, I'm actually my full name because I actually post non-comic stuff to it occasionally. So it's Peter Marinari. Sorry for all of you people who can't spell my Italian last name. But if you just search on YouTube anywhere for This Week in X, we do a weekly show where we review all of the new X-Men comic books and get into a really in-depth discussion of the themes. So whether you've been reading along with all of Jonathan Hickman's Dawn of X and Reign of X, or you just want to dip a toe in and see what's going on, we are here every week with that as single episodes as well as a podcast.
And all you have to do is he can put his name in the chat, and that's who you follow. That might make it easier. Let me see. There was another question. Okay. Omar, do you know anything about Avengers The Gathering Omnibus? Due out in April, but haven't seen it mentioned on YouTube anywhere. I announced it. I got to break the news, and I did the solicitation. And you get a first glance. I just got this in.
What?
So here it is. This is
those sweet leather jackets.
The leather jacket ears. I knew you would appreciate this.
Look
Peter.
how big it is.
Oh, it's a big one too. It's still sealed. I haven't opened it up, so I just literally got it from David. This, I think, is the direct market cover. The standard edition cover also has different, but I gotta have my boy Dane and Cersei here because that was my people. I used to ship. Screw Crystal. All about Cersei.
They released that as an Eternals tie-in because of Cersei.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the other cover actually has more eternally things on it. But one thing I told David, I said, he asked what I thought of this, and oh my god, I guess
you want to rub it all over your body, but also it's a.
I said yes, make that happen, and I said, but with the understanding that you have to promise me later on, and you can lie to me, that you will make a Operation Galactic Storm oversized hardcover because those issues are not collected in here. And if we're going to go the X-Men route with Extinction Agenda and Executioner Song, then you have to have an oversized hardcover for complete as myself. So...
And at this point, Operation Galactic Storm, I feel like is an easy sell to the MCU movie fans. Like before, I was kind of shocked it didn't come out alongside Endgame. I'm like, here's the perfect opportunity to sell you a bunch of Avengers all together doing spacey stuff. But you know, they always have their plans. I'm really fascinated with the idea of how much the collection releases tie in with the movies. Like easily, they knew that Cersei was going to be in Eternals. They had the cast list. It was really easy for David Gabriel or whoever to go and say, "Hey, bring me all the options for releasing Cersei content in the year that runs up to Eternals." But sometimes they have collections that are like a really deep cut, and then you see the movie or the show or whatever, and that person's in the movie and the show, and it makes me think like, who at Marvel has that early script access where they're like, "You better do a Monica Rambeau book," like get it out there. Yeah. Sleepwalker, he's coming. Like.
That is really funny. Like, because I thought the same thing. I one of the videos that David saw of mine that cracked him up. So the first time we talked on the phone was I was like, oh, it was the Man Wolf collection. I'm like, all right, who at Marvel knows that Man Wolf is coming out? He's gonna be in Spider-Man 2, and then he's like, oh, dude, I was just looking at a stack of Man Wolf comics, and I was like, hey, we haven't collected that yet. And
Science.
He's like, I really don't know much. Like, sometimes my people have to tell me these movies are coming out. So, like, She-Hulk, he had no idea there was a She-Hulk show. That now when Dan
that was a coincidence that they did all these She-Hulk omnibuses.
The first one, yes. The second one with Dan Slott, he knew because he was like, as soon as I was talking to him on the phone, he was like, I just got done talking to Dan, asking him that is it cool to do his She-Hulk run in omnibus format. And Dan said, yes, of course. So sometimes it's coincidence, and then sometimes they find out about things and they're like, yeah, absolutely, we should do this. I mean, look at all the Eternal stuff, right? Like, it was supposed to come out in November, got postponed, and now it's all coming out. It almost makes me sad when I do an overview of things because I'm like, oh yeah, there was supposed to have been a movie to tie in with all this, or all the Black Widow love we got last year.
I know. Hopefully it's still sold okay and they're not gun shy of doing more omnibuses like that collect some of these characters, especially female characters from the 80s, didn't have their own ongoing, but they still could put together an omnibus that collects across a lot of material, or an epic that collects across. And I just hope the sales were good, and I hope that we can still get this stuff for a few other characters, not just women characters, but other characters who maybe kind of weren't paid their due I hope we don't have to wait for a movie, or at least the movie will still be good enough. So I want everything to go out, do well. I'm always saying I'm on the side of comics. I want all comics to be good. I want all comics to sell well because I want to buy more.
That's a good way of putting things. I'm on the side of comics. I find it interesting that sometimes, like, we used to, I know from Ryley, how long have you been getting Omnis?
Geez.
Like, what was your first one?
I think it was the first Captain America by Brubaker.
Okay.
And it was in print and cheap, so...
Okay. So if it was first printing sometime around 2007, 2008, maybe. Something
like that.
Back then, everybody, like, when I was part of the Marvel Masterworks board, and so was Peter, it's where we actually met, like, we all knew that as soon as a movie was announced, we got some kind of collected edition in omnibus format. We're like, okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was math. It was easy math. You could just go through. I actually had a database that paired up all of the movie release dates and all of the omnibus release dates. And it was like always within 3 months, you would get an omnibus match. It used to be 2 for certain properties or 3 for the main properties. I mean, mathematical formula that they were clearly following.
And then, what was it? Was it Iron Fist? I'm trying to think of the very first time that we were like, wait a minute. What's going on here? They didn't reprint Iron Fist by Brubaker or give us any of the classic stuff. I think that's the that I was like, wait a minute. Well, the Iron Fist TV show, Black Panther, the movie.
Luke Cage, none of the TV shows really. I mean, did they reprint Alias for the Jessica Jones TV show? Luke Cage never got an oversized book.
They did reprint Alias, and they did reprint Daredevil when those were coming out. The Frank Miller stuff.
So, Omar, you saw there's a new Darkhawk comic coming out in a couple of months. Just hit this list, right?
Mm-hmm. And David reminded me for some weird reason that next year is this year is the 30th anniversary of Darkhawk. And I was like, yeah, but it's also like the 31st anniversary of the New Warriors. Like,
gotta keep those priorities in order.
He did join the New Warriors later on. Just saying. Yeah, so I don't know if they're planning something or not. I mean, there's a lot of anniversary things happening. You have Cap's anniversary, you've got Fantastic Four's anniversary. So hopefully we'll get more surprises in that fourth quarter. I do have one more omnibus announcement to make tomorrow afternoon. So that's always exciting. It's always exciting when I pre-recorded the thing like weeks ago and it has to go through hoops and hurdles to get approved. And so it's a lot of fun.
So should we start building our Omar release continuity based on your facial hair? Like, should we be like, I think this one was actually shot several weeks ago. He's releasing it now.
There are things I wish I could talk about. Like when people ask me, like I love the people that have been asking me specifically for, what was it? The death of Captain America, like for months, ever since I announced the first reprint. And I knew about them back to back, but David was like, just don't say anything about the second one because we don't know when and if we'll put that on the schedule. So the last thing I want to do is also break someone's heart and say, yeah, it's coming. And then it doesn't come. And finally, when he got to tell me, I'm like, oh my God, I can finally tell these people it's coming. Like so many people like ask me, like, is this coming? Like, so I think people know now, like, to not ask me specifically because I can't say anything. So they were like, just nod your head or wink or give us some sign. Every once in a while, I did used to do little clues in my background. Like what was going to be reprinted. I put it in the back. And I think somebody busted me on that. Somebody was like, hey, you mentioned that. And that was on your video a week ago. And I was like, damn, you got me. Good job. You paid attention. Wait, are you going to announce Wolverine Omnibus? Am I wearing a suit, James? I'm not wearing a suit. So no, I'm not. Oh, yeah. Uncle Raj needs at least 2 Omnis to do his run justice. Even though, it's weird. Like, I don't think he ever leave a Marvel book on good terms? I was thinking of his Spider-Man run and then his Avengers run. I don't think creators left on good terms back then. John Byrne did the same thing with Avengers. Remember that? Like during Darker Than what was it? Darker Than Scarlet. What was that storyline? With Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. But it's almost like, why would somebody leave a title on good terms then, unless they got offered a hot new title, like McFarlane making the jump to Spider-Man? It kind of just was the way. It was like, if you're an ongoing title, it was either still ongoing or it was canceled or they kicked you off. I love books like, I have this actually right here. Great read, the Marvel Comics, The Untold Story. You kind of need to pair it with a more official history of Marvel, because this has like a lot of bullpen gossip type stuff. So if you don't know the official history, there's going to be gaps. But if you combine this with something like the 40th anniversary Marvel history or any other kind of history of Marvel, it's fun to know all those stories and why people were coming and going and who was fighting with Shooter any given week. I love that kind of stuff.
Transformers UK. I wish I could announce that. I can't even get IDW to like. That's the one book me and the PR guy. I don't think he's there anymore at IDW bonded over. We were talking about how much it broke our hearts that those books didn't sell, so they couldn't continue publishing because we needed a total of 8 Transformers UK, and we got to 5. 6 was solicited for 2 years, and then eventually they tweeted that it's not coming at all. There's just sales weren't there. And, as somebody that's in the business of, I don't know, making money, the last thing you want to do is publish a book no one's going to buy. So it kind of sucks.
But it's also like IDW, it seems like they're really good at getting these turtle collections out. But some of their other collections, I really question if they I don't know. Sometimes the plan seems a little bit up in the air. Boom, I feel like is getting better and better at just really understanding that there's a big collector's market out there and serving well.
Boom at least is cashing in on those Power Rangers like there's no tomorrow. Yeah. Now, there are other properties like Irredeemable, things like that. I don't know if they think there's any other books besides Power Rangers right now. Or maybe they paid such a price for Power Rangers that they were like, we got to get our money back on this.
Well, Boom is also making a mint on Lumberjanes. Like, there's millions of Lumberjanes in print. Like, Boom has a much more booming YA group of titles, and the YA stuff probably regularly outsells all the comics that we all read that are more non-kids comics. So Boom's kind of a different story. IDW has some kids stuff, especially now that they're doing that Marvel's kids stuff, which all is really good. If you've got kids in your life, those Marvel action books are really fun. The Captain Marvel one, I would say, is as good as a normal continuity Marvel comic, but Boom's just got a better market for that stuff.
At least with Transformers and TMNT, those are cash cows, is what Keith told me. He's the guy that works their collected editions department. He's like, those will be evergreen. Now, that was back then. That was before the pandemic. I don't know if that's still true. But as far as Ghostbusters, that stuff won't see reprints because he told me himself, that's not being reprinted.
No, I mean, I'll meet random people in life here in New Zealand too, where it's like comics are really expensive to get here.
Sure.
If you don't get them from like a IST or book depository, if you won't get them local. And I worked with this guy who was obsessed with Transformers, and he had every IDW Transformers hardcover, and he was just buying them at the shop down the street here, at which point it's like 2x or 2.5x the US cover price. Like, there are Transformers nuts out there who you don't think are comic fans, who if you go to their house, they've got a shelf full of Transformers and they have all those Transformers books.
I've got mine custom bound, so I love those Transformer comics. Honest question, weren't a lot of abrupt halts in runs due to headbutting with Shooter? I mean, he ran a tight ship, but there's always hearsay and two sides to every story. But he was known to kind of been a micromanager, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure personalities clash. Even back then, John Byrne was John Byrne. So YA in bookstores blows us nerds out of the water for sure. Absolutely. That's 100% when people are worried about Dark Horse. When we look at the diamond sales of Dark Horse ain't even looking at that. Dark Horse cares about the book market, and that's it. And those Last Airbender and those Disney books that Dark Horse puts out, those things sell like crazy. So they're doing fine.
And Boom has so many Cartoon Network properties that they do ongoing titles and mini-series and graphic novels of, and they're ones that are praised. Like the Adventure Time comics got a ton of praise whenever they were running.
Steven Universe comics, not award-winning like Adventure Time, but also really great. And that's what I think, I primarily read in the DM as you guys do, and primarily read kind of adult-oriented stuff. And sometimes we forget not only that this stuff exists, but it's great. Like, sometimes I'll just randomly pick up one of these kids comics, and if blows me away. And it's like Boom's Wind from James Tynion last year. For sure, no doubt in my mind, one of the 10 best books of the year. Like I read 2,000 plus comics out in 2020, and Wind, without a doubt, it was originally going to be an original graphic novel, but when the pandemic hit, they broke it out into individual issues. It's a smash hit. It's an all ages fairy tale, and it's amazing.
What is it again, Peter?
Wind, W-Y-N-D. It's from James Tynion, who is writing Batman now and launching a new Joker title. 100% recommend. Read it with your kids. Fantastic modern fairy tale. A little scary. You got to have kids who like a little bit of scary murder. Yeah. But it's YA scary murder.
My oldest daughter does. He's also the one that's writing Something's Killing the Children. Boom, actually, Boom has Once and Future. Al Ewing has a book over there that's really good. I just read it this last weekend.
We Only Find Them When They're Dead.
Yes!
Boom also has Something Is Killing the Children, another James Tynion book, one of the best books of 2020.
That was one of my top 10. That was amazing. Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah, Boom's worth at y'all. Like, don't just be reading Marvel DC Image. If you're skipping some of these Boom creator-owned titles right now, you're seriously missing some of the best reads that are out there. Isn't Tom Taylor's book at Boom too that is like on the 8th printing right now, 7 Secrets?
Yeah, that's also we were talking about Boom on Omnibros like last week or something, and I was mentioning just their strategy in their publishing has been really great because they focus really heavily like on one new title per month basically. Yes. And they put like all their backing into that. They really push it. They put the ads in every single magazine, and they have such great creators as well. Every one of these are like the creators that are either like now like A-listers or the ones that are on their way there, and some of the best artists in the game as well. And they're not bombarding you with like 50 new titles every week. They're just focusing on one new book at a time, and they're just knocking them out of the park.
Honestly, that's a very smart move. And I don't know if it's on purpose or if it's limited to budgets. I really don't know. Because I think of like Netflix, right? Like pumping out all these shows. Mm-hmm. And as much as actually the only show I think I've ever binge watched in the last few years was Cobra Kai season 3. I watched it all in one day. And then I'm like, oh, the moment's gone. Now I have no life for the rest of 2021. But it seems like Disney's doing it right by releasing them weekly. Like WandaVision, first 2 episodes came out today. The next episode comes out next week. That almost feels like a proper approach because Image just has way too much, and I can't keep up with what's what or what's still in print, what's canceled.
That like shotgun publishing where there's so many different things at once. Yeah. And the problem with that is that when you have that kind of shotgun strategy, you don't have the ability to spend the time or the money to try new things from people. At least that's what I find my issue being, from people that you're not familiar with yet. Because I have to sit there and be like, okay, like I don't have the time to sit down and read every single thing that Image puts out. And so most of the things, if I don't know the names and I haven't heard anyone else talking about it, I'm just going to skip over it. And it's sad because if they did less, if they only did, one, like Boom is doing, 1 new series a month or like 2 new series a month, I could put a lot more focus on trying everything that they put out.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Image, especially last year, is a lot of their marquee creators are kind of like taking a breather and getting their next titles ready. And there were a lot of smaller books out that were great last year, but they didn't get that push. I think Boom has really found the right focus with like, in any given month, we're going to make sure you heard that this title is coming out. And I think they did a great job of that last year. At Image, one of my favorite books of the year, Big Girls, with the artist from Trees. His name is escaping me right now, but he wrote and drew it. Great concept, charming, funny, tense, full of action. I didn't see a single word about it anywhere on the entire internet. I wouldn't have even known that it came out if I didn't follow him on Twitter. And it was one of my favorite books. And I just think Image, there was a lot of good stuff out from Image last year that kind of flew under that radar. And like even Marvel, I feel like is getting a little bit better at this, where they don't just fling a lot of new series out at once and they try to like say like, this is a launch.
Jason Howard?
They toss away. Jason Howard, thank you. And DC's doing it right now with the Future State, but it's all going to come in a big lump when Future State's over, and we're going to forget about some of it, and some of the best stuff is going to get lost in the mix.
I think, well, I mean, with the big two, it's always kind of been like that, right? Even when they try to focus on like, okay, we're canceling all the X titles, and we're only going to focus on like 4. That's it. And then slowly but surely, because I mean, it's a money thing too. Like we need to make money, and then we have to have creative teams, and people need jobs. So sure, let's give X Force its own book. Oh, Deadpool hasn't had a book lately. Let's give him a book with Cable. So.
But again, even with the X-Men line, they did a wave and they held the line until the next wave, and then they did a smaller wave. It's really easy to remember kind of, if you're following it, that they're distinct. It's not just like they're all coming out at once. And I just think that's where we are now. It's information overload. The comics industry is huge. There's great marquee creator stuff coming out everywhere. You got to pick your battles. You can't just fling stuff out and assume everybody's going to buy it just because your publisher name's on it anymore.
That happened during the New 52 is what Derek's saying. And I was just reminded, like when I'm looking at the solicitations from DC, I'm like, man, I remember when they were publishing 52 books a month. It's crazy to look at the books that they're publishing now.
Plus Vertigo, plus miniseries, plus one-shots. Like, it was, 52 was just the main titles.
Yeah, Eric Larson does not like them. It's not that he doesn't like them. It's just that he's afraid of putting his books in omnibus editions. He said he doesn't think people will buy them. I don't know why some of these creators question themselves like that. And I think a lot of them have, based on, the Michael Turner stuff, the Fathoms universe, a lot of them are taking the Kickstarter to do some of these things to see if there's enough demand. And I'm honestly surprised a lot of the older creators haven't gone that route, like Silvestri with Cyberforce or Larson himself with Savage Dragon, because the demand is there. And I'm sure enough people will back these projects to warrant some kind of omnibus or some kind of box set from these creators.
And it also makes me wonder, like, what are they waiting for? It's not like any of these creators are going back to a big publisher and making a splash that's going to reignite their backlist, you know? Like these are creators I like. That's not meant as a knock on them, but like with Cyberforce, which I love, and I own every single issue in individual issues of Cyberforce. Why not start reprinting it? Like, what are you waiting for? Is the market going to be more receptive to Cyberforce next year? Like, make a strategy. So I think McFarlane is probably the best of them in terms of Spawn. Like, he chooses his times to get the audience excited about Spawn reprints, and Spawn reprints tend to sell real darn well. But you can't compare Cyberforce to Spawn. Spawn is Spawn.
I like Garth Ennis is a huge fan of the omnibus format. Recently said he'd support. Yep, that's what got the whole boys in omnibus started. Garth Ennis was like, have you all seen what the Marvel and DC have done with these big books? Let's see. How about an Alpha Flight omnibus with the post burn? Yeah, that would be Bill Mantlo. Got some awesome artwork in there. Jim Lee's first published Marvel work, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yes. Or a Ghost Rider by Howard Mackey and Mark Peter. You remember how to say his last name? How do you
Teixeira?
Teixeira.
I don't know.
Teixeira. That's it. McFarlane seems like the smartest businessman. I think, so here's the thing. I think that sometimes too, especially, but there's also this thing with like the Spawn deluxe editions have been out of print, and people have been wanting those for so long. And then they were going to reprint some, and then he backed out and said, "No, let's pull the plug on that. Let's do this instead." So now they're doing a 50-issue compendium of the first 50 issues of Spawn.
And you kind of look at it like Spawn had its biggest year in years last year with that 300. It got a ton of media attention. Maybe that was the year before into last year. That was the time to strike when the iron is hot. When is he going to get the amount of PR? Maybe he's holding it back in case he, winds up doing another animated series or a movie. But it's like for these indie titles, they don't have the constant wave of media placement that Marvel and DC has with their characters. You got to choose your battles, So I'm sure Todd's a smart dude and he makes a lot of money, and I'm sure he's got a plan. But some of these other ones, like Savage Dragon, what are you waiting for, Larson? Like, get the reprints out.
Man, I would be all over. Not that it's I would be all over those early years of like Shadowhawk and Youngblood.
I have every issue of every one of those books. Yeah.
I hate myself. I used to, but I think I got rid of them. And now the rights are a mess with Youngblood. Like, Liefeld doesn't even own the rights to Youngblood.
It's never going to happen.
So none of that is going to be there. So,
but back to Marvel. When are you going to announce that Alf Omnibus? Is that going to be the one you're announcing tomorrow, Alf? Blink yes, Alf. Blink twice.
No, I'm going to
Wait, was that a wink? Did we
Yeah.
get?
It's never happening. Fabian Iglesias has said that should be the DM cover. He was. He was.
Is that a pull float, or is he just giving it to that?
He's giving it, and that seal was not expecting it. And when people bring that up, and we're starting to wrap up, and I hate to wrap up with Alf, but when people bring that to conventions to him, he's like, "What is this? Do you think that's really what Alf is doing to this seal?" Like, he gets into arguments with people. He's like, "Alf doesn't even have a penis. How could he do that?" And I love that Niciesa knows this. But everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back again sometime next month. We'll talk amongst ourselves and decide on what's a good day when all of us can get together. And we'd love for you all to join us again. I think we were thinking about New Mutants Volume 2 and maybe a couple. So if you have suggestions, leave them in the comments below. What you would like to see us maps as far as like X-Men related stuff. And then once we run out of X-Men related stuff, even though we're never going to run out of this material, because we can come back, do Wolverine Volume 4. We can start looking at other things. This is a lot of fun. I like this is the kind of stuff that I like to daydream about. So it's nice to talk to my friends about this stuff. So, gentlemen, where can people find you? Omnibus Collector, where can people find you when you're not hanging out with me?
When I'm not making Alf jokes.
Correct.
That was, I want to say, the greatest thing. One of the greatest things I've done with my life is bring that Alf omnibus into people's headspace.
I'm glad that it's like made you some kind of happy.
I don't even know if half the people know that I was the one that said that. But it was funny because I said that and at the same time was like, but also an alien that should get an omnibus is the Aliens. And I mentioned that since Marvel had just recently said they were going to be publishing Alien. But anyway, you can find me at the Omnibus Collector on YouTube. I'm going to try, now that I'm getting off of here with Omar, to publish a video tonight showing my new manga library. So anyone into manga, check that out. I've done a lot of really cool stuff. I'm getting a nice big comfy area for that. So check me out on the Omnibus Collector.
We can also be found on Omnibros Live.
I can. Both of us, Omar and myself.
And Peter has joined us before. But Peter, when you're not there or here, where can people find you? You got several places.
I do, and the names are all different. I'm sorry, my branding is failing me. I have a long-running blog that was launched in the year 2000 called Crushing Crisis, and that's where I've mapped the majority of how Marvel comics are collected, as well as some DC comics too. So if you're looking for the kind of collection guides that can tell you what's already out to get these materials, you can definitely head to Crushing Crisis, that's with a K.com, Crushing with a C, Crisis with a K. Here on YouTube, I'm much easier to find because it's just my name, Peter Marinari. And if you can't spell Marinari, if you just YouTube search for This Week in X, we cover every new X book out every week. We've been doing it since the beginning of X of Swords. So it's a great way to keep up, even if you're not keeping up with pulling them.
So there you have it. Ooh, I like this idea. Map my Dawn of X. That could be fun. If the Dawn of X was collected into an omnibus format one day. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to hit like, and we will see you again next time. Good night, everybody. Or good morning, wherever you are.